Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to go over basically how to start adding in content. Last time we went over adding a header, which is kind of, starting to add content, but now we're getting in a little bit more making menu bars, adding in some pictures and stuff like that. I went over in, I believe, the first one, how to create rollover links, like linking pages together, which essentially that's what this is. Um, so I'll go on how to create these like navigation bars. If you want to get into adding images, it kind of takes in turn of like creating an image like to where just a little bit of the image would be uncovered whenever you roll over, then the other side of the image would be uncovered. In other words, telling HTML I want at this certain time whenever it's active to show this image, but then whenever you click on it, I want it to show the other image. So it's a little bit to explain, which is why I won't get into it right now. But just to kind of create this like navigation bar, and this can kind of be placed, above the header if you wanted to, or up at the top. So I'm going to close this out, and I'm just going to create a new HTML. And I'm going to save this as a demo. HTML. And I'm going to create a style sheet for it and link them together because I like to have my style sheets separate. Save this as Wednesday styles. Cool. We're back to scratch down here. I'm going to go ahead and link this too so you can see these now. Attach existing style sheet, browse for it, Wednesday style. I'm going to just change the background color and add it to the style sheet. Earlier with this nice warm blue here. Should be able to cut and paste it over. Get rid of this. So now my background color is on my style sheet. Probably should have did that before I created it, or did it while I was creating it. But that'll work. So inserting stuff. Last time we did a header. I'm just going to do a navigation bar. Now this stuff comes up. I'm just going to create an ID for this because I'm going to start adding it to my style sheet, all the styles on the navigation. I'm going to do it, add it to the style. And this is important because I'm going to create basically an ID within an ID, in other words, to control like the link or the links and all that stuff within the box. So in other words, I'm going to create a navigation box that I'm going to have control over. Then I'm going to create content in the navigation box that I'll have separate control over. So you'll kind of see what happens after you kind of break it down. So this is just going to be my nav. A good way to kind of see this is to go into the design view. If you're working on live view, or a good way to see this is not in the design view. Design view is good for typing and stuff, but if you go into the live view, you can see these tabs right here. This is really the way I keep up with it. See, now I've created an ID for it on my body, and it is connected to, well, it will be connected to my style sheet whenever I create an ID for it right here. So go to this plus sign. I just typed in nav. Select what style sheet you want it to be applied to. It's the Wednesday style sheet. Then all of a sudden you see it is the links down here have kind of matched up, and it's also created on your style sheet a navigation subtext over here. So over here, now if you select your source over here, it shows up in your selector. And if you select that navigation tab, now you can adjust properties of this actual box here. So within this navigation box, I'm basically going to start typing out my links of what I had. So I'm going to adjust the properties of the navigation. I want this thing to span the whole percentage of this top. So I'm going to do that as percentage. And I'll make sure you've got your navigation properties. So you're affecting your navigation box up here. 100%. And I want this thing to actually float, which float means all the context is going to kind of stay to the left. If you go to kind of shrinking it and everything, it's not going to kind of float over here. You'll understand what I'm talking about whenever I show a preview of this. So you just click there, nothing's happening because I don't have anything in here right now. Well, I'm going to go type some links in here. I'm going to do that in the design view. So I'll do all capitals. I want my home space. I want my about space. My gallery page. What else can I put in? Just going to type in, I like always have interactive in mind, just because I think it's a separate category for my work. And I will do my resume, and I'll do contact. So that gives us quite a few links up here that we can start making a navigation bar to kind of spread across there. Now this is going to be simply done with text. Like I was saying earlier, if you do this with images, which a lot of people do, there's different ways of coding, and we can make that another tutorial basically where you'll add the image, create a link out of the image, and you'll create basically states within the images, like a rollover state, an active state, and it's, in other words, covering up different colors for those images if you're using basic images. But in this case, we're going to be using text that we'll be able to manipulate in the properties tab by adding CSS transitions. In other words, instead of going down to doing the rollover links and connecting them, we'll just be able to create transitions, and you'll see how they kind of affect on the style sheet. So I have all these links here. I need to create links. I don't have all these pages created yet, and that's okay, because more than likely you're going to create one page anyway and kind of save as page 1, save as page 2. So it's good to kind of go ahead and create the links as you want to now on one page. So a fast way to do this, to start creating links, you got your link down here, just create a hashtag, and it automatically creates a link for that separate thing. You'll see the H reference, hashtag, and you can always change it to your actual link later. But for right now, kind of these little demo links, this is how it's going to be. So the about, same process. Same process. Cool. So now I wouldn't start duplicating the pages yet. I would wait till we get this layout correctly. Then you can actually duplicate the page and change the actual links to the page. In other words, if you were to come up here, you could change it to kind of browse. The reference would be basically directing it to what page you wanted to direct it to. So, but as for now, you can see if you go to your live view or kind of test it, have something going on there. You have these click things. You got to figure out how to, like, your navigation bar spans the 100% of the page itself. You just need to figure out how to get these things kind of in order and kind of looking a little better than they do now. So I'll go back to the live view. So what I'm going to do now is basically, since this is floating left, that's all we really needed for this whole navigation. I'm going to actually create another navigation ID off this ID, in other words. So if you add a selector, have the navigation selected, and add a selector, it basically will start numbering your navigations. So this is a whole different to do now, and I'm going to start affecting basically this text in here. So this is where it gets a little different. This is where you'll actually select these text to be basically 100 pixels just to test out. Now we'll probably up that number, but I don't want them to span 100%. I just want them to kind of stay like, basically maybe to one side or kind of span across the top. And that kind of comes with kind of seeing how many pixels I am going to have. But for right now, I'm going to go 100% and it'll show you how 100 pixels. So PX. Nothing really happened. The display needs to be kind of that floating box like we did with the header. And I want everything to be float left. Notice they pop back into place and they kind of already started to overlap a little bit, because what it's done is it's given me so much room for each block, but it's kind of running into each other. And so that tells me now I need to kind of like spread them out more than 100 pixels. So I'll go down here and change this to 200. That looks a lot better. And you can try to see what the initial span is. If you do 100%, usually it will enter them in the middle. But we're going to center this as is already. So I'm going to change my font. You can do that right here. As we're still on the nav A. I'm going to change the color. I kind of like that color. I'm going to change the font family. Sometimes this affects the size, obviously. Your font style. You could check the a little bigger. Sometimes I try to add in the H1 tags, these things, but I kind of like that right there, the large font across the top. And this is important too, your text center. Right now everything's kind of to the left, I believe. You don't want to go to the center. It didn't look like it popped in the center. It's the center of 200 pixels, so you kind of got to look at where you're at. Probably could go and to maybe 400, see what happens. The bigger the font, the different pixel spread though. I don't want them underlapping each other. In other words, I want them to stay pretty even across the top. Yeah, that was a little too much because now it's putting a lot of pixels in between them. I'm going to go back to 200. That looked pretty good. For demo purposes, in other words. So now we've got this thing built up here, and if you notice, nothing's on this. Everything's nice and clean on this, but on my style sheet, everything is added in with the nav A. It's added a new sub style for the nav A. It's got my width, and you can go in and change these things here, like 250 here. You wanted it different. It's displayed block. You can kind of read with everything, your font. You can kind of change this anytime, really. but everything's kind of clean in the style sheet, in other words. And that's the importance of creating the ID. This with these ID tags here. Then you have these to select over here, then you mess with the properties over here, and it adds it to the style sheet. So I was talking about CSS transitions. This is kind of like the rollover links, what I did with the link pages, but it's kind of a little easier. It's a little bit more processed, but I'll go and show it to you. So you're on your navigation A. This is where you're going to create your transitions at. CSS Transitions. This box here. Create new transition, target rule. This is where you want everything to take place. Nav A. Transition on the active. Okay. You'll have different things for hover. Well, we want active. We're going to need how it is now whenever you hover over it and whenever you click on it. Let's go to the property. We're going to be adjusting color. Timing function, just type in this cubic Bezier. This is different ease in. Yeah, it's got your different values. The end value is the color. Now this is the color set, what it is. Let's change it to white. So we can demo create transitions. I'm gonna go nav A. I'm gonna go to my that was what I had. Let me close this. Yeah. I need one for the checked. Off green color, create transitions, and you'll notice in your box up here, everything's starting to add up. Now I'm going to create one for my hover. This is the one I want white. Or did I create one for white already? Let's just go purple. So now I've created 3 transitions, 3 different instances in my CSS. Everything's clean here. Because I was working in the navigation A, it's created new properties over here, and it's also created my instances right here. Active A, color, and you can go and change them here too. So let me go back and Control S, save that. Just preview this all. My hover doesn't seem to be working. Go to my live view. Oh, it was disabled. Why would I do that? I'm going to get rid of that one. Remove transition. Nice bright purple. Okay. So, of course, it is not doing exactly as I did it earlier. Let me figure out why it's not. Okay, so took me a minute there, but I figured it out. I just deleted that. I have an active check, and I'm just gonna create a new one. Just every time like I went and selected the hover there, if I didn't have my target rule there, it went back to disabled. So you got to do it kind of in an orderly way to the nav A to the hover. And I wasn't noticing it whenever I was creating the transition. So I'm going to create this like purple. Nah, it says hover. So now you notice I'm in the live view and it's working. And I'll display it. And if I was transitioning, clicking, then you'd see the other color after it clicked on there, but it's not doing that because I'm not having any more pages. But it's working. The transitions are there, and you can check the code, make sure everything's up to code. You can always go back and adjust things and see where it is. But the big important thing is bringing in certain things, inserting things, and then creating an ID for them. So now, like if I wanted to bring in a another header underneath my navigation box, create another tag for it. Okay. Oops, no, I don't need nav. I need header. Create an ID for it. Call it head. Assign it to the style sheet. Voila, there it is. Now I have this whole section here to start manipulating with. You can see it in the design view. I have my navigation box, I have my header box, and I could add images or kind of flip-flop on the way the last tutorial I had that big text image in there. You could go to here and adjust the properties, and whatever properties you do are going to add to the style sheet going on here, which I've created right here now. So it gets a little bit easier to understand the more you kind of keep dropping stuff in there. And the next video I'll go adding a little bit of content in the middle, maybe a picture or something like that. So, okay guys, thanks for watching. Bye.